Imagine this. You wake up, but not in your comfy bed with memory foam pillows. No. You blink open your eyes to find yourself lying on a stiff iron bed frame in a tiny freezing cold room in London. The year is 1850. Your mattress, stuffed with horsehair, scratchy, lumpy, the kind of uncomfortable that makes you seriously question how anyone survived the night, let alone lived like this. The fire in the corner that once gave a little warmth has died down to nothing but faint orange embers. It's so cold you can literally see your own breath. You shiver and pull the stiff cotton sheets tighter around you. They're clean, but not exactly soft. Nothing about this room is soft. You glance around, trying to make sense of where the heck you are. There's a giant wooden wardrobe that looks like it weighs more than your car. A ceramic wash basin sits on top of a rickety stand. And next to the bed, a tiny dressing table with an old brass mirror that barely reflects your face through the soot-smeared glass. Outside, the muffled clatter of iron-rimmed carriage wheels bounces off cobblestones. Somewhere down the street, a dog barks, and mixed in with the endless smell of coal smoke, because trust me, London, in 1850, is always soaked in coal smoke. You catch a faint trace of bergamot oil coming from a little glass perfume bottle on the table. Sharp. Citrus. Surprisingly nice. Then it hits you, the weirdest part. You look down and realize you're dressed in a heavy flannel nightgown, buttoned all the way up to your chin. Neck covered. Wrists absolutely hidden. Why? Because even while sleeping, showing skin is a scandal in Victorian society. Yep, even asleep modesty reigns. You glance at the small brass bell next to your bed and out of pure instinct give it a ring. Footsteps. Quick ones. A young maid appears at the door, breathless but smiling. She drops a perfect little curtsy. "Good morning, miss," she says sweetly. "Shall I draw the curtains?" Before you can answer, she's already yanking back the heavy velvet drapes. Gray daylight floods the room. Well, not really floods, more like limps in weakly, thanks to the soot coating every window in this foggy, smoke-choked city. The maid, her name's Mary, apparently, is already halfway across the room before you realize what's happening. "What would you like to wear today, miss?" she asks as she opens the wardrobe. And that, my friend, is where your crash course in Victorian social rules officially begins. Because the very first thing you do today, what you wear, is governed by one of the most bizarre, complicated, unforgiving rulebooks in history. Welcome to life on Victorian expert mode. One wrong move and boom, social disgrace. No second chances. Mary pulls out a deep blue day dress and lays it carefully on the bed. "You've got a morning call with Mrs. Hartley at 11, she reminds you, and then tea with your cousin Emily at 4. Hold up, morning call at 11. That's not morning. Plot twist. Victorian. Morning calls never happen in the morning. They actually happen between 3 and 5 in the afternoon. Don't ask. Call it an afternoon call, and everyone will look at you like you've lost your mind. Anyway, these morning calls last exactly 15 minutes. Not 14, not 16, 15. Overstay by even a minute, and you're basically committing a social felony. Better have a pocket watch. People are timing you. Mary starts helping you dress. And let me tell you, getting dressed in 1850 is an event. First, there's the shift. A plain white cotton slip. Then the corset. Oh boy, the corset. She wraps it around your torso and starts pulling the laces tighter and tighter. Proper waist. Miss Mary reminds you cheerfully. Apparently, the goal is a waist small enough that someone could span it with their hands. She pulls harder. You gasp. Breathing optional, apparently. Next comes layer after layer. Petticoats, 3 of them minimum. Each one adds bulk. Then the crinoline, basically a metal birdcage that turns your lower body into the shape of a giant bell. Finally, the dress itself. Tight bodice, sleeves tailored within an inch of their life, skirt so wide it could knock over a small child if you turn too fast. By the time you're done, you're wearing about 15 pounds of clothing. But wait, there's more. Gloves. You must wear gloves. Why? Because in Victorian society, a lady's bare hands are apparently as scandalous as walking around topless. No, seriously. Gloves or mittens? Miss Mary asks, holding up both, like she's offering life choices. Gloves, you say, remembering the unspoken rule, never show your hands in public, ever. Then comes the finishing touch. Perfume no. Queen Victoria declared that heavy perfumes were vulgar. Instead, you dab a tiny bit of lemon oil and bergamot on your handkerchief, just enough to smell clean, not enough to suggest you're trying to seduce anyone. Heaven forbid. Fully dressed hair, perfectly pulled back into a severe bun. No flyaways allowed you head downstairs for breakfast. The house is already buzzing. Servants bustle everywhere, dusting, sweeping, polishing. The cook's been up since 5 a.m., slaving over the morning meal. Because in Victorian England, breakfast isn't some grab-a-coffee situation. No. Breakfast is the biggest meal of the day. Your father is already at the table, hidden behind his newspaper. Your mother sits at the far end, scribbling letters, her quill scratching furiously. Good morning, you say, sliding into your seat. Your father lowers the newspaper just enough to nod. No. Good morning, dear. No. Did you sleep well? Nope. Victorian families don't do hugs. They don't do kisses on the cheek. Public displays of affection, even within families, are considered wildly inappropriate. Breakfast is intense. Eggs, bacon, kidneys, toast, porridge, enough food to feed a small army, but you can barely eat because hello corset. Tiny polite bites only, chewing slowly. Don't breathe too deeply, or you know it all. As you're delicately sawing at a piece of toast, your mother looks up just long enough to remind you. Remember, Jane? Mrs. Hartley's daughter just became engaged. Be sure to congratulate her, but don't ask any questions about the wedding. That would be presumptuous. You nod, adding that to the growing mental list of social landmines you now have to avoid. Acknowledge, but never ask. Show interest, but not too much. Curiosity is vulgar. And guess what? This is only breakfast. You haven't even stepped out of the house yet. Welcome to the Victorian era, where every glance, every breath, every blink comes with an entire chapter of unspoken rules attached. After breakfast, you retreat to the drawing room. But don't get too comfortable. Being idle isn't an option for a proper Victorian lady. Idleness is practically a sin. Idle hands are the devil's workshop after all, so you pick up your embroidery, delicate little stitches, forming an endless pattern of roses and ivy on a linen handkerchief. Needlework is the ultimate Victorian feminine pastime. It's quiet, it's decorative, and most importantly, it screams, I am a modest and industrious young lady who knows her place. Your mother settles into her chair nearby, also working on her embroidery. The rhythmic sound of needle through fabric fills the air. Without looking up, she remarks, I saw Mrs. Fairchild at the market yesterday. Her son has returned from Oxford. Your needle falters for just a second, Thomas Fairchild. You try not to react, but your pulse betrays you. Thomas, you danced with him once last season at a ball before he left for university. He didn't step on your toes, which is more than you can say for half the young men you've danced with. His smile was kind, his eyes even kinder. How nice, you reply. forcing your voice to sound casual, your eyes fixed firmly on your stitching. Your mother doesn't miss a beat. She mentioned, he asked after you. Your cheeks burn, but you keep sewing like nothing's happened. Did you answer, keeping your tone as neutral as humanly possible? That's very civil of him. Your mother allows the faintest smile. Quite. And that's it. Nothing more needs to be said. Victorian mothers are masters of the subtle art of matchmaking without ever admitting they're matchmaking. By the time the clock chimes 11:15, it's time for your morning call. Mary reappears, helping you into your bonnet, your gloves, your cloak. You grab your calling card case, yes, an actual little case full of tiny cards with your name printed on them, like Victorian business cards, but for socializing. You and your mother step outside, and instantly the icy London air bites at your cheeks. Your enormous skirt sways as you walk, and you have to take small, dainty steps. Walking quickly would be unladylike. Walking too slowly would look lazy. You have to hit the exact speed of respectable female locomotion. The streets are alive with the rhythms of the city. Carriages rattle by their wheels, clattering over cobblestones. Men tip their hats as you pass. You respond with the slightest inclination of your head, never full eye contact, never a smile. Speaking to strange men is out of the question. It's a short walk to Mrs. Hartley's townhouse. You arrive precisely at 11. Not a minute early. Not a minute late. Showing up early would suggest you have nothing better to do. Showing up late would suggest you're disorganized. Either one would be social doom. The butler opens the door. You hand over 2 cards, one for yourself, one for your mother, placed neatly on his little silver tray. He disappears for a moment, then returns and shows you into the drawing room. Mrs. Hartley rises from her chair as you enter, offering a stiff curtsy. Her daughter Charlotte does the same. You curtsy in return. No hugs, no handshakes, absolutely no touching. How kind of you to call, Mrs. Hartley says with a polite smile, gesturing for you both to sit. You settle onto a dainty little settee, perching carefully on the very edge, because, well, your crinoline is a giant metal hoop under your dress. Sitting with any kind of grace while wearing a steel birdcage strapped to your waist is a minor miracle. We were so pleased to hear your happy news, your mother says to Charlotte, who immediately blushes and lowers her gaze. Congratulations. Thank you, Charlotte murmurs, eyes still on the floor. Mr. Edwards is very kind. And that's it. That's all you're going to hear about her engagement. You don't ask when the wedding is. You don't ask how they met. You don't ask if she loves him, because that would be prying. And Victorians absolutely do not pry. The conversation floats onward like a carefully rehearsed play. You discuss the weather. Cloudy, but not raining. The sermon at church last Sunday. Inspiring, but not too long. A recent charity event. Well attended, but tastefully subdued. Every topic is perfectly neutral. Strong opinions are the domain of the lower classes. A proper Victorian lady is agreeable, pleasant, never controversial. At precisely 15 minutes, your mother gives you a subtle nod, time to go. Any longer would signal a desperate lack of other social engagements. You rise. It was so lovely to see you, you say with another curtsy. And you, Mrs. Hartley replies, curtsying in return. Do call again. Outside, as you begin walking home, your mother nods approvingly. That went well. Charlotte looked well, didn't she? Very well, you agree. In Victorian speak well is about the highest praise anyone can give. You return home in time for a light luncheon. Nothing too heavy. After all, dinner is hours away. You take tiny corset-restricted bites of cold chicken and cucumber sandwiches while your mother goes over the household accounts with the butler. Once the plates are cleared, it's time for your next obligation tea with your cousin Emily. Fortunately, she's coming to you. Emily arrives promptly at 4, dressed in an elegant but slightly outdated gown. Her family isn't quite as flush as yours. She removes her gloves and bonnet, and the two of you settle into the drawing room with cups of tea and a modest selection of cakes. This is a slightly more relaxed social call because she's family. Slightly. You still maintain perfect posture. Still choose your words carefully. Still avoid gossip, at least the improper kind. How was your morning call? Emily asks, sipping her tea. Pleasant, you reply. Charlotte's engagement was the topic, of course. Emily smirks. Naturally. There's a pause. Then, unable to resist, she leans in just a bit. And have you heard Thomas Fairchild is back from Oxford? You fight to keep your face composed. So I've heard. He was at the concert last week. Looked quite dashing. Emily's eyes sparkle with mischief. You danced with him last season, didn't you? Once you say, pretending to focus on stirring your tea. At Lady Hamilton's ball. He's a fine catch, Emily muses. A very fine catch. You say nothing, but your cheeks grow warm. After Emily departs, you still have a few hours before dinner. Naturally, that means piano practice. 1 full hour. Enough to maintain your reputation as a competent musician. But not so much that anyone would suspect you of harboring improper ambitions of becoming a professional. Because heaven forbid, at 7, the family gathers for dinner. Since there are no guests tonight, the atmosphere is relatively informal, which means your father doesn't bother changing into evening dress. But you still have to change into a slightly fancier gown than the one you wore for tea. Victorian dinner conversations follow the same rules as everything else. Pleasant, polite, impersonal. Your father discusses the price of coal. Your mother talks about her charity committee. Your brother James grumbles about a billiards match at his club. You mostly listen, contributing only when directly addressed. A proper young lady knows when to speak, and more importantly, when not to. After dinner, the family retires to the drawing room. The men might go enjoy brandy and cigars in the study, but the ladies stay here. No strong drink, no smoking. You play a few polite pieces on the piano. Mendelssohn, maybe a little Mozart. Nothing too dramatic. Nothing that would suggest you are experiencing actual emotion. At 10 sharp, it's time for bed. Mary helps you out of your dress, unlaces your corset, sweet glorious relief, and buttons you into your flannel nightgown. Will you need anything else, miss? She asks. No, thank you, Mary. She curtsies and slips out, taking the lamp with her. You settle into the stiff horsehair mattress once again, staring at the ceiling as the embers glow softly in the grate. Another day of Victorian life survived. Another day of balancing on the razor's edge of propriety. And tomorrow is the Fairchild's dinner party. And Thomas will be there. Morning comes far too quickly. Mary's soft knock at the door is followed by the familiar sound of curtains being drawn back and the weak London daylight seeping through the soot-streaked windows. Good morning, Miss Mary says, as she sets a cup of hot chocolate on your bedside table. It's going to be quite the busy day. You sit up, rubbing sleep from your eyes, and that little flutter of nerves in your chest reminds you why today feels different. Tonight is the Fairchild's dinner party, Thomas Fairchild's dinner party. Mary starts laying out your morning dress, her hands quick and practiced. Shall we do the burgundy wool with the navy trim today, miss? She asks, already unfolding the gown. Yes, you answer, smoothing the blankets over your lap. And Mary, let's do something softer with my hair this morning. Mary gives you a knowing smile, though she's too well trained to say what's clearly on her mind. Everyone in the household knows exactly why you care a little more about how you look today. The morning passes in a whirl of routine. Piano practice 2 full hours as your mother insists. Mrs. Fairchild may request a performance she reminds you. Of course she will, because nothing about this evening will be casual. Every bite of food, every note of music, every glance across the table will be loaded with subtext. After the piano, your mother suggests a walk in the park to clear the nerves, which really means make sure you're seen. A young lady of marriageable age must never appear idle. A public stroll signals to society that you are an active, respectable member of the social world. The park is bustling. Other women in wide skirts take small, graceful steps along the gravel pathways. Men tip their hats. Everyone plays the same game, exchanging polite nods without ever breaking the invisible barriers that separate them unless a formal introduction has been made. As you walk, your mother leans in slightly. Remember, at dinner tonight, you will be seated according to rank. Don't let your face reveal surprise whether you are placed near the head of the table or near the foot. You nod. You've read enough etiquette guides to know that dinner table placement is a brutal, unspoken scoreboard of your social value. The most important man sits to the right of the hostess. The most important woman to the right of the host. The further away you are, the further you are from relevance. And everyone notices. After the walk, it's time to begin preparing for the evening. And a Victorian dinner party isn't just about changing clothes, it's practically a military operation. Mary runs a bath, adding a few drops of rose oil to the steaming water. You step in quickly. The bathroom is freezing, and the small fire in the hearth does little to chase away the chill. You scrub quickly, teeth chattering, then step out onto the icy floor, where warm towels and Mary's steady hands are waiting. Then the dressing process begins. And this is next-level fashion suffering. The corset goes on first, tighter than usual tonight. Much tighter. Your waist is drawn in inch by inch until you feel like your ribs might snap. But that's the point. A tiny waist is the ultimate symbol of femininity, of discipline, of social status. Next comes the crinoline, wider than the one you wore this morning. Tonight's crinoline creates a skirt that easily stretches 4 feet across. Add to that 3 petticoats for volume, weight, and the proper swish when you walk. And finally, the gown, pale blue silk, tiny pearl buttons, a neckline that is scandalously, by Victorian standards, low, revealing your collarbones and the soft curve of your shoulders. Just enough skin to be fashionable, not enough to be vulgar. Your hair is twisted into an elaborate updo pinned with tiny silk flowers. A dusting of rice powder gives your skin the fashionable porcelain finish. No rouge. Only actresses and women of questionable virtue wear rouge. As Mary fastens the last pin, she steps back, hands on her hips. You look beautiful, miss. Like something out of a painting. You turn to the mirror, and for a moment, you barely recognize yourself. The girl in the mirror is elegant, impossibly composed. Exactly what a proper Victorian lady is supposed to look like. A knock at the door. Your father's voice. Carriage is ready. You descend the stairs carefully, mindful not to trip on the endless folds of silk, and step into the waiting carriage. Your father helps your mother in first, then offers his hand to you. The streets fly by in a blur of gas lamps, fog, and the rhythmic clatter of hooves. Your mother smooths her gloves. Remember, speak when spoken to. Smile, but not too broadly. And, should Mr. Fairchild seek your company this evening, do not appear too eager. You nod, pulse racing. The Fairchild's townhouse is stunning. 3 stories of pale stone, every window ablaze with gaslight. 2 liveried footmen open the carriage door as the butler announces Mr. and Mrs. Wilson. Miss Jane Wilson. The drawing room is already crowded. Silk rustles, candles flicker. The hum of polite conversation floats through the air. And then you see him, Thomas. He stands near the fireplace, speaking with an older gentleman. He's taller than you remember. His evening coat fits perfectly, highlighting the broadness of his shoulders. His cravat is tied with precision. His dark hair catches the warm glow of the chandeliers. His eyes meet yours. For just a moment, the mask of Victorian reserve slips. His lips curve into the faintest smile. Then, remembering propriety, he quickly bows. Miss Wilson. He greets you when he crosses the room. His voice is deeper than you remember. How very pleasant it is to see you again. Mr. Fairchild, you reply, your voice calm. Perfect. Controlled. I trust Oxford agrees with you. A flicker of amusement crosses his face. It does. Though, I must admit, London has its own attractions that Oxford lacks. Is he flirting? You honestly can't tell. Victorian flirting is like playing chess underwater with blindfolds on. Compliments are buried under 3 layers of politeness. Before you can answer, the butler appears at the doorway. Dinner is served. The dance begins. Mr. Fairchild's father steps forward to escort the highest-ranking lady in the room. Mr. Fairchild offers his arm not to you, but to an elderly dowager, as custom demands. You, meanwhile, are paired with a pleasant middle-aged gentleman whose name you barely catch. Together, you process into the dining room, an elegant space shimmering with candlelight crystal and polished silver. The table is intimidating. Each place is set with a terrifying array of utensils: soup spoons, fish forks, meat knives, dessert spoons. Use the wrong one, and society will never forget. Your place is not at the top of the table, but not at the bottom either. Middle rank, encouraging, maybe even strategic. Thomas is seated across from you, several seats down, close enough that you can see him when you glance up, but far enough that you cannot speak directly. During dinner, conversation is limited to the people on your left and right. No shouting across the table. No waving. You exchange polite words with your dinner partners about the weather, the latest concert at the Philharmonic, and the quality of the asparagus. Across the table, Thomas occasionally catches your eye. Each glance feels like electricity, but every time he looks away, just a second too soon. Because in Victorian London, even eye contact can be scandalous. Course after course arrives. Soup, fish, roasted meats, game. Each bite is small, dainty. No chewing with your mouth open. No elbows on the table. No reaching. And definitely no getting full. A lady does not eat heartily. Then comes the moment every Victorian lady dreads: the gender divide. Mrs. Fairchild catches the eye of the highest-ranking woman and rises from her seat. This is the cue for all the ladies to leave the gentlemen behind with their port and cigars. You rise with the others and follow them back into the drawing room. Behind you, Thomas watches you go, and the next chapter of this delicate, impossible courtship is about to unfold. The drawing room feels warmer now, filled with the gentle murmur of female conversation, the clink of porcelain teacups, and the occasional polite laughter. The air smells of rosewater and lavender, a stark contrast to the pungent mix of cigar smoke and port lingering from the men's side of the house. The ladies arrange themselves in small groups, perched delicately on settees and velvet chairs. As always, seating is a subtle game. Who sits with whom says everything about alliances, favors, and social ranking. Mrs. Fairchild glances toward you with a gracious smile. Miss Wilson, she calls gently, would you be so kind as to favor us with a piece on the pianoforte? There it is, the request you were fully expecting, and Victorian etiquette dictates there's only one acceptable response. If it would please you, Mrs. Fairchild, you answer, lowering your eyes just enough to appear modest. Though I'm sure there are more accomplished musicians present. Nonsense, Mrs. Fairchild replies, gesturing toward the grand piano in the corner. Your reputation precedes you. You rise, walking carefully across the room, mindful of the enormous sweep of your skirt. As you approach the piano, a familiar voice appears at your elbow. May I assist, Thomas? He holds out his hand, offering to turn your pages. Your heart does a little somersault. This is significant, very significant. In Victorian society, standing beside an unmarried lady at the piano isn't just helpful. It's practically a public declaration of interest. Subtle, yes, but no one in this room will miss the implication. That would be most helpful. Mr. Fairchild, you reply, keeping your tone perfectly neutral, even as your pulse races. You settle onto the piano bench, carefully arranging your voluminous skirts, and place your sheet music on the stand, even though you've memorized every note. Thomas stands close, not too close, but close enough that you can smell the faint scent of bergamot and sandalwood from his cologne. Taking a steadying breath, you begin. The notes float out soft, graceful, restrained. You've chosen Mendelssohn's Song Without Words, elegant but not flamboyant. It shows refinement, technical skill, and crucially modesty. As your fingers glide over the keys, Thomas turns the pages at exactly the right moments, his hand occasionally brushing yours. Every time it happens, a jolt runs straight through you. Yet your playing never falters. Outwardly, you are the picture of composure. When the final note fades, a ripple of polite applause fills the room. Nothing too enthusiastic. That would be gauche, but enough to signal approval. You rise, and Thomas, in another daring break from absolute propriety, offers his hand to help you up from the bench. His touch lingers for the barest second longer than necessary. Beautifully played, he murmurs, his voice low. You do Mendelssohn justice. And with such appropriate restraint, of course, you can't help the tiny smile that tugs at the corner of your lips. Thank you for your assistance, Mr. Fairchild. Mrs. Fairchild is beaming. Mr. Fairchild gives his son an approving nod, and Emma Parker, seated nearby, looks like she's biting into a particularly sour lemon. The conversation resumes. You return to your seat, flushed but composed. No one mentions the unspoken dance that just occurred at the piano, but everyone noticed. Half an hour later, the men rejoin the ladies. The smell of tobacco trails behind them as they enter, faces flushed from port and laughter. The younger men begin circulating among the ladies. And as expected, Thomas gradually makes his way toward you, but not directly, of course. That would be too obvious. He stops to speak with two older women first, then a cousin of someone, then finally arrives at your side. I must say, Miss Wilson, he begins, hands clasped behind his back, in perfect, gentlemanly posture. The gallery at the Royal Academy opened a new exhibition this week. Have you had the chance to see it? You reply carefully, adjusting the lace at your wrist. Though I've heard it's quite remarkable. I thought, he continues, pausing slightly, as if weighing his words perhaps. With your parents' permission, of course. You might accompany me to view it one afternoon. There, a direct invitation. In Victorian terms, this is practically fireworks and a boombox outside your window. A gentleman asking a lady to attend an exhibition signals clear, serious interest. You inhale softly. That would be most agreeable, Mr. Fairchild. His smile, small controlled, is unmistakably pleased. Excellent. I shall speak with your father. The conversation flows easily after that, touching on art, music, travel, always impersonal topics, yet every glance and every smile adds weight to the moment. Out of the corner of your eye, you notice your father and Mr. Fairchild deep in conversation near the fireplace. Serious conversation, not the idle chatter of dinner guests. Something about their posture, their expressions tells you this isn't just about art or the weather. Your mother quietly appears at your elbow following your gaze. Your father, she says in a low voice, finds the Fairchild banking ventures quite sound. The implication is clear. In the Victorian world, marriage isn't just about affection. It's about merging fortunes, strengthening family alliances, securing futures. A good match benefits everyone financially and socially. It's not unromantic. It's just practical, necessary. The evening begins to wind down as the grandfather clock chimes 11. The first guests make their farewells, and the unspoken signal passes through the room. It's time to leave. Your father meets your mother's gaze, and with the barest nod, the decision is made. You gather your gloves, your cloak, your calling card case. As you wait in the entryway for the carriage, Thomas steps forward. His bow is precise, his tone perfectly measured. "Miss Wilson," he says softly, "might I call on you tomorrow afternoon?" Your breath catches. "You may." "With your parents' permission, of course," he adds quickly, glancing toward your father. Your father's stern face softens just a little. "We would be pleased to receive you, Mr. Fairchild." "Thank you, sir. 2 o'clock." 2 o'clock would be suitable. Thomas bows again, his eyes finding yours one last time. "Until tomorrow, Miss Wilson." "Until tomorrow, Mr. Fairchild." As the carriage pulls away, you glance back, catching one final glimpse of him, standing beneath the glow of the gaslight, watching you leave. Your mother squeezes your gloved hand in the darkness. "Well," she murmurs, unable to hide the small smile in her voice. "I believe the Fairchilds have made their intentions quite clear. For once you don't bother pretending otherwise. You smile too. Tomorrow at 2. Tomorrow, everything changes." Morning arrives far too slowly and far too quickly all at once. Mary draws back the curtains with her usual efficiency, letting in the pale, smudgy daylight of a London winter. "Good morning, miss," she says cheerfully, setting a cup of hot chocolate on your bedside table. "You've got a caller this afternoon. Shall I lay out the seafoam walking dress?" You nod, unable to keep the small smile from tugging at your lips. "Yes." The seafoam. Mary's eyes twinkle with curiosity, though she doesn't ask. She doesn't have to. The entire household knows. Cook knows. The footman knows. The butler knows. Thomas Fairchild is calling. And when a gentleman like Thomas Fairchild calls, well, everyone knows what that means. You try to keep busy throughout the morning. You attempt some needlework, but your stitches are uneven. You sit down at the piano, but can't concentrate. You even pretend to read an improving book about botany, but the words blur into nonsense. Your mother watches you from her armchair, pretending to write correspondence, but clearly just waiting like you are. Occasionally, she looks over the top of her spectacles with an expression that is half amusement, half warning. Compose yourself. At precisely 1:55, the Fairchilds are nothing if not punctual. The doorbell rings. The butler appears in the drawing room doorway. "Mr. Thomas Fairchild to see you, madam." Your mother rises smoothly. "Please show him in." Thomas enters, bowing first to your mother, then to you. He looks, if possible, even more impeccable than last night. His morning coat is perfectly tailored, his cravat tied just so. His gloved hands hold his top hat, which he sets carefully on the side table. "Mrs. Wilson." "Miss Wilson." His voice is warm, but perfectly measured. "I hope I find you both well today." "Quite well, thank you," your mother replies. "It's a fine day for an exhibition." Thomas's eyes flicker to yours, and for the briefest moment, the mask of propriety slips just enough to reveal something genuine, something hopeful. "If you are ready, Miss Wilson, he says, offering his arm with a slight incline of his head. You glance at your mother, who nods. You may go, she says. I shall accompany you, of course. Naturally. A Victorian young lady never ever goes anywhere alone with an unmarried gentleman. The carriage waits outside glossy black, with the Fairchild crest painted discreetly on the door. A small, subtle reminder of wealth and status. The ride to the Royal Academy is pleasant, filled with polite conversation about the weather, the state of the roads, the fog, and the latest gossip, always the safe kind, never scandal. As the carriage rolls through London's bustling streets, Thomas gestures toward a corner bookshop. I recall, Miss Wilson, you once mentioned your interest in poetry. That shop has the finest collection of Tennyson's latest work. Your mother smiles slightly. Jane does enjoy her poetry. Her father insists on something more practical, but I've long said a young lady's mind should be nurtured as well as her accomplishments. Thomas glances at you, his smile softening. I quite agree. The Royal Academy is a grand building, its stone facade looming over the square. Inside, the exhibition is already bustling with finely dressed patrons, ladies in silks and velvets, gentlemen in crisp coats, all moving through the galleries with carefully measured steps. Thomas offers his arm again, and you accept your gloved hand resting lightly on the fabric of his sleeve. The sensation, so small, so mundane, feels shockingly intimate. As you walk among the paintings, landscapes of rolling hills, portraits of stiff-faced aristocrats, grand historical scenes, you exchange observations. Polite, thoughtful, restrained. I find the brushwork here particularly expressive, Thomas says, gesturing toward a painting of a stormy sea. You nod. The use of light is remarkable. It feels almost alive. His smile widens. I confess I had hoped you would notice that. And there it is again, that thread of meaning running just beneath the surface of every word. You round a corner into a quieter gallery, filled with miniatures, tiny portraits, delicate and detailed. It's quieter here, the crowd thinner. As you pause before a particularly beautiful piece, a mother and child painted in impossibly fine detail, Thomas's voice lowers just a fraction. Miss Wilson, he begins, I wonder, have you ever considered? But then he stops, glancing toward your mother, who pretends to be absorbed in a watercolor of roses. Whatever he was about to say, he swallows it. You move on, the moment passing, but the air between you now feels charged. As you exit the gallery and descend the grand staircase toward the tea room, something shifts. A figure steps into your path. A man, middle-aged, impeccably dressed, with a smile that doesn't quite reach his eyes. Fairchild, the man says smoothly, offering a polite nod. Mrs. Wilson? And this must be Miss Wilson. A pleasure. Thomas's jaw tightens so subtly you almost miss it. Lord Barrington, he replies, his tone polite but cold. Your mother stiffens visibly. You glance between them, sensing at once that something is wrong. I wasn't aware you'd returned to London, Barrington, Thomas says. Only recently, Lord Barrington replies, eyes lingering on you just a bit too long. Paris was diverting, but one tires of the continent eventually. The way he says it makes your skin crawl. Lord Barrington turns back to you, his smile sharper now. I must say, Miss Wilson, it's a rare delight to meet a young lady of such charm. Thomas steps forward slightly, not enough to be improper, but enough to place himself subtly between you and Lord Barrington. Miss Wilson is accompanied by her mother, as you can plainly see, he says, voice cool. Indeed, Lord Barrington replies, tone lazy, but eyes calculating. Indeed, your mother's voice is icily polite. If you'll excuse us, Lord Barrington. We were just heading to tea. Of course. Another time, perhaps. He inclines his head, but doesn't move until Thomas's glare makes it clear that the conversation is over. As you continue toward the tea room, Thomas's tension doesn't ease. "I apologize for that encounter," he says quietly. "Lord Barrington is not received in the better houses of London. May I ask why you venture, though your mother's sharp glance warns you not to pry further?" Thomas hesitates, then answers carefully. "Let's just say his attentions toward young ladies have not always been honorable." You shiver not from the cold. The tea room provides welcome relief. Over cups of steaming Darjeeling and delicate slices of cake, the conversation returns to safer territory. You discuss the paintings, the music at the last Philharmonic concert, the merits of various walking paths in Hyde Park. But beneath it all, the memory of Lord Barrington's smile lingers like a shadow. When the tea is finished, Thomas escorts you both back to the carriage. At your front door, he bows deeply. "Mrs. Wilson, Miss Wilson, thank you for the pleasure of your company. Might I call again tomorrow? I would like to speak with Mr. Wilson if he is available." Your heart stutters. Your mother's smile is composed but unmistakably pleased. "I believe my husband will be home tomorrow afternoon, Mr. Fairchild, around 3 o'clock. 3 o'clock, Thomas repeats. "Perfect." His gaze meets yours one last time. For a heartbeat, there's nothing between you but unspoken words, layered beneath layers of restraint. "Until tomorrow, Miss Wilson. Until tomorrow, Mr. Fairchild." As the carriage disappears down the street, your mother turns to you, expression soft. "Well," she says, "I believe we both know what that means." You nod, hand pressed lightly to your chest, feeling the rapid thrum of your heart. Tomorrow at 3, Thomas Fairchild intends to ask your father for permission to court you formally. And nothing, not even Lord Barrington's shadow, will stand in the way of what's coming. Morning comes, wrapped in a thick, damp fog, the kind that smothers the streets of London and turns gas lights into soft halos of gold. But even the heavy gray sky can't dim the electric anticipation humming through the house. Mary bustles about your bedroom, laying out a pale blue morning dress, the one Thomas once complimented, the one you both know was chosen very deliberately. "Do you want the pearl combs, miss?" she asks, already knowing the answer. "Yes," you reply, smoothing the front of your dress. The pearls, Mary pins your hair into a soft, elegant twist, leaving just a few carefully placed curls to frame your face. "You look lovely," she says quietly, stepping back. "Quite becoming." You glance at yourself in the mirror. Your reflection stares back, composed, serene, every hair in place. And yet beneath the surface, your pulse races so hard, it feels like your ribs can barely contain it. Downstairs, the entire house is pretending to be engaged in normal activities. The butler polishes silver that doesn't need polishing. The cook reorganizes the larder for the third time. Your mother pretends to write letters, but checks the clock every 3 minutes. Even your father, usually stoic, unbothered by the trivialities of social life, is dressed in his best waistcoat, freshly starched cravat, and polished shoes. He pretends to be reading the newspaper, but you notice the pages haven't turned in 15 minutes. At precisely 5 minutes to 3, the doorbell rings. No one moves. Then the butler glides past the drawing room doorway. "Mr. Thomas Fairchild, to see Mr. Wilson," he announces. You try to breathe. Really you do. But it feels like the corset is even tighter today. Your father sets aside the newspaper gently, carefully, like he's handling something delicate, and rises. Without a word, he follows the butler toward the study. Thomas doesn't even glance toward the drawing room as he passes. His face is composed, serious every inch, the responsible, respectable gentleman. The door to the study closes with a quiet, ominous click. And now, the worst part, the waiting. You sit in the drawing room with your mother pretending to do embroidery. Your stitches are terrible, crooked, uneven, but you keep your head bent, fingers moving, because that's what's expected. No pacing, no leaning toward the door, No wringing your hands. A proper Victorian lady does not let the entire future of her life being negotiated in the next room disturb her calm exterior. But inside is an absolute hurricane. 15 minutes pass. 20. Your mother folds her hands watching the clock without watching the clock. Patience, Jane, she murmurs, though her own foot taps against the carpet. Then footsteps. The door to the study opens. Voices murmur. A low, indistinct exchange of words. And then your father enters the drawing room. His face is inscrutable, the classic paternal mask of Victorian dignity. Jane, he says, Mr. Fairchild wishes to speak with you. Your mother raises an eyebrow. This is not standard procedure. Normally, the gentleman would address the parents first, then the young lady only once the engagement is agreed upon. But your father inclines his head. We'll be in the morning room if you need us. He and your mother leave, leaving you alone with Thomas. Not truly alone. The door remains ajar, and the entire household is surely eavesdropping, but as alone as a Victorian young lady and gentleman are ever permitted to be. Thomas stands by the fireplace. His hat and gloves rest neatly on the side table. His hands are clasped behind his back, but his usual polished composure is fraying slightly, enough that you see the nerves beneath it. Miss Wilson, he begins, then stops, takes a breath, tries again. Jane. Your breath catches, your given name, spoken aloud, intimate in a way that feels shocking. I have spoken with your father. Thomas continues, his voice lower now, and received his blessing to speak with you directly. Silence. He swallows, gathering himself. From the moment we met, he says quietly, I have admired your kindness, your intelligence, your grace. He shifts slightly fingers, flexing at his sides. These past weeks have only deepened my regard. There is a pause so long you could count the heartbeats between you. What I mean to say is, Jane Wilson, would you do me the great honor of accepting my hand in marriage? The words hang there, suspended in the air, between you, shimmering like spun glass. For a second, an impossibly long second, you can't breathe. You knew this was coming. Everyone knew this was coming. And yet, hearing the words, hearing them, it feels like the ground has shifted beneath your feet. Proper Victorian etiquette dictates that a lady must appear surprised, must not seem as though she expected this. But in this moment, the performance is barely necessary, because your heart is pounding, your hands trembling not out of duty, but out of something far more real. Mr. Fairchild, Thomas, you begin, your voice catching slightly. I would be honored. The relief that floods his face is like sunlight breaking through the fog. For the first time, the polished mask drops entirely. What remains is something raw, real joy, unmistakable, and unrestrained. Jane, he breathes, taking a step toward you, before catching himself, remembering propriety. May I? He gestures hesitantly toward your hand. You extend it gloved, of course, and he takes it in both of his. His hands are warm, steady. The weight of his touch feels shockingly intimate in a world where even eye contact is heavily regulated. From his pocket, he produces a small velvet box. He opens it to reveal a ring, a deep blue sapphire surrounded by tiny diamonds. Not ostentatious, elegant, timeless. It belonged to my grandmother, he says quietly. If it would please you. It would, you whisper. With hands that are remarkably steady, he slips the ring onto your finger. The weight of it feels surreal, solid, final. For the first time in your life, you are not simply Miss Jane Wilson. You are a fiancé. The thought sends a tremor of disbelief through you. Before either of you can speak again, footsteps return. Your mother appears in the doorway, her smile warm, expectant. Well, she asks, though she clearly already knows the answer. Thomas straightens, releasing your hand reluctantly, but still holding your gaze. Miss Wilson has done me the great honor of accepting my proposal. Your mother's face softens. How wonderful, she says, clasping her hands together. Truly wonderful. Your father appears behind her, nodding with quiet approval. We must have champagne, he declares, to celebrate. The butler is summoned. Glasses are brought. Toasts are made. To the future Mr. and Mrs. Thomas Fairchild. As the bubbles fizz against your lips, the realization finally fully sinks in. You are engaged. Properly. Respectably. Completely. And as Thomas's eyes meet yours, over the rim of his glass, there is something there. Something beneath all the layers of propriety, etiquette, and social expectation. Something that feels very much like love. The following days unfold in a blur of excitement and formality, each one governed by the precise rhythms of Victorian society. Word of your engagement spreads faster than coal smoke through the streets of London. By breakfast the next morning, 3 congratulatory notes have already arrived. By noon, a full dozen. Your mother, of course, takes charge. We'll begin preparations immediately, she says, with the brisk efficiency of a general preparing for war. The trousseau, the wedding breakfast, the guest list, the announcement in the Times. The announcement itself is a masterpiece of understated elegance. A marriage is arranged between Mr. Thomas Fairchild, eldest son of Mr. and Mrs. Robert Fairchild, and Miss Jane Wilson, only daughter of Mr. and Mrs. Henry Wilson of Belgrave Square. No flowery prose, no dramatic declarations, just facts. Cool, polished, respectable facts. But beneath those tidy lines, the entire city knows exactly what it means. The Fairchilds are one of London's most prosperous banking families. Your family, respectable, landed comfortably wealthy, matches them perfectly. A very good match indeed. The days blur together with dress fittings, endless consultations with the seamstress, and the meticulous construction of your trousseau gowns, for morning gowns, for afternoon gowns, for dinner, walking dresses, riding habits, ball gowns, nightgowns, dressing gowns, bonnets, gloves, petticoats. Dozens upon dozens of items, each tailored, stitched, and embroidered by hand. While you are poked with pins and fussed over by seamstresses, your father and Thomas spend their hours in equally serious discussions, the marriage settlement. Because, in Victorian England, love is all well and good, but marriage is as much a business contract as a personal one. Lawyers draft documents outlining exactly how much money and property each family contributes, what you bring into the marriage. What happens if, God forbid, anything goes wrong? Even as you are measured for lace and silk, you know that elsewhere numbers are being scrawled in ledgers, estates, assessed investments tallied. But none of that dims the thrill that hums through you whenever Thomas enters the room. Your courtship, now public official, respectable, unfolds with a new kind of freedom. He calls nearly every day. You walk together in Hyde Park with your mother trailing discreetly behind. You attend musicales, dinner parties, and lectures, always together, always perfectly proper, yet infused with the quiet joy of knowing that soon the endless rules of propriety will loosen. And then there are the letters. Between visits, Thomas sends you letters. Beautiful, careful, elegant letters written on heavy cream paper in his precise, steady handwriting. They are models of Victorian discretion, nothing improper, nothing that would cause a raised eyebrow should a maid or footman glance at them. Yet beneath the formal phrasing, a warmth pulses steady and undeniable. Your observations on Turner's use of light were most astute. I find myself reflecting on them more than I anticipated. I eagerly await the pleasure of your company this Thursday. Or, I passed the bookshop you mentioned. The collection seemed lacking without your discerning eye beside me. Little things, quiet things. But each line carries a weight, a meaning, a promise. 2 weeks before the wedding, the Fairchilds host a grand dinner for both families, a final, formal gathering before you exchange vows. The dining room shimmers with candlelight reflected off polished silver and crystal. You are seated beside Thomas. For once, the seating arrangement has nothing to do with rank and everything to do with what is soon to be. The meal passes in a glow of polite conversation, laughter, and the occasional knowing glance exchanged between future in-laws. Midway through dessert, you feel the brush of Thomas's hand against yours beneath the tablecloth, a fleeting, whispered touch. No one else sees. No one else can see. It is the single most daring thing either of you has ever done, and it sends a rush of warmth flooding through you so fast you can hardly breathe. After dinner, as the ladies withdraw to the drawing room, Thomas catches your gaze. Just a look, just a glance. But it says everything. Soon, soon. The final week before the wedding is a whirlwind of last-minute fittings, deliveries of silver, and crystal mountains of linens embroidered with your new initials. Visitors arrive daily, offering congratulations, and sometimes a little envy disguised as politeness. Your cousin Emily arrives with wide eyes, drinking in every detail. Jane, she breathes, eyeing the mountain of wedding gifts displayed in the drawing room. This is extraordinary. You smile, smoothing the lace on your sleeve. It is. She glances around, then leans closer. And Thomas, he's as wonderful as everyone said. Your cheeks warm. Better. Her grin widens. You lucky thing. The night before the wedding, the household takes on an eerie stillness. The last of the guests leave. The maids extinguish lamps. The silver is polished one final time. Mary helps you undress carefully, folding your gown and laying out the white silk nightdress you will wear tonight, the last night you will spend as Miss Wilson. She brushes your hair in long, slow strokes, her usual chatter subdued. You'll be moving to Mr. Fairchild's house after tomorrow, she says softly. Yes, Mary's hands still for a moment. I'll miss you, miss. Your throat tightens. I'll miss you too. Silence stretches between you, broken only by the soft hiss of the fire and the rhythmic scrape of the brush. Will it be strange? You ask at last. The question you've been afraid to voice. Being married. Mary smiles a little, setting down the brush. Strange at first, maybe. But it's a good thing, miss. You'll see. Mr. Fairchild's a good man. You'll be just fine. You nod, absorbing the words like a blessing. When Mary leaves, you sit by the window, staring out at the foggy street. Gaslights flicker in the distance. A carriage rattles by its wheels, clattering over cobblestones. Somewhere out there, Thomas is likely sitting at his own window, thinking the same things. Tomorrow, you walk down the aisle at St. George's, Hanover Square, the church of the fashionable elite. Tomorrow, you stand before the altar and speak the words that will change your life forever. You press your fingers to the sapphire ring on your hand. The metal feels warm, solid, real. You are ready. Ready for the vows, the future, the unknown. Ready for him. As the clock strikes midnight, you extinguish the lamp and crawl into bed one last time as Miss Wilson. When next you wake, it will be your wedding day. Morning breaks clear and cold, as though the sky itself has scrubbed away every trace of yesterday's London fog in honor of your wedding day. Pale sunlight filters through the lace curtains, casting soft patterns on the walls. For once, even the omnipresent smell of coal smoke seems gentler. Mary enters quietly, her usual brisk cheerfulness tempered by something softer, more reverent. Good morning, miss, she whispers, then catches herself. Or nearly not Miss anymore. You manage a breathless little laugh. Not for much longer. She sets a silver tray on the table, tea toast, and a boiled egg, though your stomach twists too much to imagine eating any of it. You'll need your strength, Mary urges, as though sensing the hesitation. It's a long day. A long day. The most important day of your life. Soon, the house becomes a hive of purposeful chaos. The dressmaker arrives bustling in with two assistants, arms laden with your gown veil and layers upon layers of petticoats, lace, and silk. Your mother appears shortly after, already dressed in elegant plum satin, her face carefully composed, but her eyes shining. "Is everything prepared?" she asks, scanning the room like a general reviewing troops. "Perfectly, madam," the dressmaker assures her. And then there it is, the dress, a masterpiece of white silk and Brussels lace. The bodice is fitted perfectly, hugging your corseted waist, the neckline demure but elegant, trimmed with delicate embroidery. The skirt flows out into a graceful train, and the veil, yards of lace, finer than spider webs, shimmers in the morning light. Mary and the dressmaker's assistants work together, layer by layer. Petticoat, crinoline, underskirt, the gown itself, gloves, slippers of white satin, delicate and absurdly impractical for walking on cobblestones. Then the veil. It floats down over your carefully arranged hair, pinned in place with pearl combs. As they finish, the room falls silent. Even the maids step back, holding their breath. You turn to the mirror. For a moment, you don't recognize the woman staring back at you. A vision in white, elegant, poised, a proper Victorian bride. And yet beneath the lace, beneath the silk, it's still you. "Jane," your mother breathes. "You look radiant." Mary dabs at her eyes discreetly. "Begging your pardon, miss, but you truly do." I knock at the door. The butler's voice low but steady. The carriage is ready. The ride to St. George's passes in a surreal haze. London seems to fade away, reduced to a blur of gaslights, horses, and shadowy shapes. People pause on the street, craning their necks as your carriage passes. Everyone recognizes the procession of a wedding. The church itself rises before you, tall, imposing, elegant. Already, guests are arriving their carriages, forming a line down the street. Ladies in silk and velvet. Gentlemen in tailored morning coats. All the best of London society gathered here waiting. Inside the vestibule, the vicar greets you with a gentle smile. "Miss Wilson," he says, voice kind but formal. "Are you ready?" You nod. Or at least you think you do. Your heart is thundering so loudly you can barely hear anything else. Your father offers his arm. "Shall we?" The doors open. Music swells an organ, grand and rich. Heads turn. A ripple moves through the congregation. And there at the front of the church stands Thomas. For a moment, the rest of the world dissolves. You barely register the flowers, the rustle of silk, the sunlight streaming through the stained glass. All you see is him. Thomas watches you as though no one else exists. His dark hair perfectly combed, his cravat crisp. But it's his eyes that hold you. Warm, steady, full of something deeper than mere affection. This is happening. This is real. Step by step, you move down the aisle. Each step echoing with the weight of the past, the hopes of the future. At the altar, the vicar's voice feels distant but clear. The words you've heard all your life, spoken at countless weddings, now belong to you. "Dearly beloved." Thomas offers his hand. You place yours in his. His fingers are warm, steady, strong. The vows come next. Simple, timeless. "I, Thomas Fairchild, take thee, Jane Wilson." Your voice trembles, but does not falter. "Jane Wilson, take thee, Thomas Fairchild." The ring slides onto your finger, a simple gold band, cool against your skin, joining the sapphire of your engagement ring. The vicar smiles. Those whom God hath joined together, let no man put asunder. A gentle, dignified pause. You may salute the bride. Thomas lifts your veil. For a breath, you are both suspended, two people standing at the precise boundary between who you were and who you are now. He leans forward and presses a kiss, chaste but lingering, to your cheek. Just a whisper of contact. And yet, in a society where even a touch of the hand carries meaning, it feels as intimate as anything could ever be. Applause rises, gentle, polite, but unmistakably joyful. The wedding breakfast is held at your family home, as tradition dictates. The drawing room has been transformed. Tables groan beneath the weight of food. Roast meats, cold pies, jellies, custards, trays of fruit and sweetmeats, towers of sponge cake, champagne flows. Glasses clink. Guests come forward, offering congratulations. Such a lovely match, they say. A most suitable union. The word love is never spoken aloud, but it hums beneath every compliment, every knowing smile. Your father makes a toast. Your mother beams. Your brother James raises his glass, grinning broadly. To Thomas and Jane, he declares louder than etiquette strictly allows. May you always be as happy as you are today. Thomas catches your gaze across the table, and in that moment, you know it's not just a hope, not just a wish, it's a promise. As afternoon fades toward evening, it is time for the final tradition, the farewell. You change from your wedding gown into a traveling dress of deep green velvet with a matching hat and gloves. Practical, yet elegant, the luggage is loaded onto the carriage. The footmen stand ready. Friends and family gather on the front steps, smiling, waving. Thomas offers his hand as you step into the carriage. His fingers curl around yours, firm, steady. Well, Mrs. Fairchild, he says, voice low and rich, with something new, something both familiar and thrillingly unknown. Shall we? You squeeze his hand. Yes, you whisper. Let's. The carriage lurches forward. Cheers rise behind you. Rice and flower petals rain down. London's streets stretch out ahead. A new life awaits, side by side, hand in hand, together. The carriage rumbles steadily away from the city, leaving behind the gaslit streets of London, the chimneys, the endless thrum of footsteps on cobblestones. Each turn of the wheel feels like a quiet drumbeat marking the beginning of something new. Beside you, Thomas sits quietly, his hand resting lightly over yours, his thumb tracing slow, absent-minded circles against your glove. Neither of you speaks at first. There's no need. The silence is full, soft, electric, alive. Then he turns, and for the first time since the ceremony, he allows the careful mask of Victorian formality to fall away completely. You are, he says softly, the most beautiful thing I have ever seen. Your breath catches. No polite detour into discussions of weather. No careful dance around meaning. Just a simple truth, spoken plainly. Honestly, you smile, your fingers curling around his. I could say the same of you. The road winds through the countryside now. Stone fences line the hills. Bare trees arch over the lane, their branches sharp against the pale winter sky. The air smells different here, less of coal, more of earth and frost and distant wood smoke. Home isn't far, Thomas says, glancing out the window toward the horizon. Fairchild Manor. It's modest by some standards, but it's ours. Or, rather, it's yours now too. Ours, you echo, testing the word. It feels strange, new, wonderful. He squeezes your hand gently. Ours. The carriage rounds one final bend, and there it is, a handsome country house of warm red brick, nestled among rolling fields. Lights glow in every window. Smoke curls from the chimneys. A line of servants waits by the front steps, stiff-backed but smiling. As the carriage draws to a halt, Thomas steps out first, then turns, offering his hand. You place your gloved fingers in his, feeling the steady strength there, the familiar and the unfamiliar all at once. "Welcome home, Mrs. Fairchild," he says, his voice low and warm. The butler bows. "Mr. Fairchild, Mrs. Fairchild." The staff is honored to welcome you. There's a murmur of greetings, curtsies, nods. Names pass by you in a blur. Mrs. Draper, the housekeeper. Mr. Collins, the butler. Young Maggie, the scullery maid. You smile, murmur polite responses, try to commit faces to memory. But truthfully, the entire world has shrunk to the steady warmth of Thomas's hand in yours. Inside the house is everything the outside promised. High ceilings, polished wood, walls lined with paintings and shelves of books. A fire crackles in the drawing room, sending shadows flickering across heavy velvet curtains. Thomas leads you through it all. The entry hall, the grand staircase, the library. "You may change anything you like," he says, gesturing toward a set of pale blue drapes. "The house is yours as much as mine." You glance up at him, surprised. "Truly," he chuckles softly. "Truly. I may manage the accounts, but the running of the household belongs to the mistress. You'll find Mrs. Draper most capable, but any change you desire, simply say the word." It's a strange realization. For the first time in your life, you are not a daughter obeying her parents, nor a guest following the rules of someone else's home. You are mistress, lady of this house. A sudden weight settles over you, not a burden exactly, but the awareness of responsibility, of adulthood, of being fully and finally a wife. Thomas notices the shift in your expression and stops. He reaches for your hands, pulling them gently into his. "Jane," he says quietly, "are you, well?" You swallow, then nod. "It's a great deal to take in." His thumb strokes over your knuckles. It is he agrees, and it always will be, but we'll face it together. Every day, as partners. The words wrap around you like a promise. Strong. Certain. A maid appears, bobbing a curtsy. "The rooms are prepared, sir, ma'am." Thomas nods. "Thank you." She disappears upstairs, and an odd little pause settles between you both. For all the rules governing courtship, for all the layers of etiquette dictating every word and glance, Victorian society has curiously little to say about this moment. About what happens now. Thomas clears his throat, offering you a slightly sheepish smile. "Shall we?" You nod, your heart thudding so loudly, you're certain he must hear it. "Yes." He offers his arm. You take it. The stairs creak softly beneath your steps as you ascend together. A pair now. Husband and wife. Partners. Something bigger than either of you alone. At the end of the hall, Thomas pushes open a door. The master bedroom is warm, lit by the glow of a fire already built in the hearth. Heavy velvet curtains are drawn against the winter night. A vase of fresh winter roses sits on the mantel. The bed is massive canopy draped in white linen and pale silk. Your throat goes dry. Mary's words from last night float back to you. Her gentle reassurance, her knowing smile. You feel them settle over your shoulders now, like an invisible cloak. Thomas closes the door quietly behind you. For a moment, neither of you moves. Then slowly, he turns to you, and his smile shifts into something softer, something reverent. "Jane," he murmurs, I hope you know. There's no rush. Not tonight. Not ever. We can go slowly. And go." Relief and affection flood your chest all at once. He means it, truly. This isn't about duty or expectation. It's about choice. About you. You step toward him, close enough to see the flecks of gold in his eyes, close enough to feel the heat radiating off him. I trust you, you whisper. His hands rise, hesitating for a moment. Then gently, reverently, he removes your gloves, one finger at a time. His fingertips trail over your skin like he's memorizing it. And then finally, his hands cup your face, tilting it up. When his lips meet yours, it is nothing like the chaste kiss at the church. This is real, warm, sweet, the culmination of every stolen glance, every restrained word, every whispered hope. The world falls away, just the two of you, together. Hours later, as the fire dies down to glowing embers, you lie nestled against him, your head on his chest, his arm wrapped around you. His breathing is slow, steady. Safe. Jane, he murmurs, sleepily, pressing a kiss to your temple. I love you. Your throat tightens. I love you, you whisper back. The words feel daring, new, like something forbidden that now belongs entirely to you. Outside, the wind rattles softly against the windows. The world is vast, uncertain, full of challenges yet to come. But inside this house, inside this room, inside his arms, you are exactly where you are meant to be, together, forever. Morning light spills through the edges of the velvet curtains, soft and golden, warming the chill of the winter air. You blink awake, disoriented, for half a second, until the rhythm of Thomas's breathing beside you anchors everything. For the first time in your life, you are not waking in your father's house. You are not Miss Jane Wilson. You are Mrs. Jane Fairchild. The thought sends a strange thrill through you, half excitement, half disbelief. This is real. This is yours. Thomas stirs beside you, his arm tightening around your waist, pulling you instinctively closer, even before his eyes open. His voice, rough from sleep, rumbles against your ear. Good morning, Mrs. Fairchild. Mrs. A smile curls across your lips before you even open your eyes. Good morning, Mr. Fairchild. He laughs softly, warm and low, pressing a kiss to your hair. That sounds perfect. For a long moment, neither of you moves. The fire has burned down to embers. The weight of the covers, the warmth of his embrace, the quiet peace of knowing there is no rush, no chaperones, no schedule, no watching eyes. It wraps around you like the softest, safest blanket. Eventually, Thomas brushes his thumb along your cheek, looking down at you with a smile, both tender and a little mischievous. Shall we face the day? You let out a groan, burrowing further against him. Do we have to? He laughs again, tightening his hold. No, not yet, but eventually the day does call. Breakfast is served in the small dining room downstairs, a quiet meal just for the two of you. Silver trays laden with toast eggs, roasted mushrooms and ham, a pot of chocolate for you, coffee for Thomas. The butler, Mr. Collins, and the housekeeper, Mrs. Draper, glide in and out with practiced grace. But now, something has shifted. They no longer address you as Miss. No longer glance to your mother for instruction. Every glance, every word is directed toward you. Will you wish the luncheon to be served in the conservatory? Ma'am, Mrs. Draper asks. Shall I instruct the gardener to bring fresh roses, ma'am? Mr. Collins adds, ma'am. The word still feels foreign, heavy, powerful. You glance toward Thomas for reassurance. He catches your eye and offers the smallest nod, the kind that says yes. You belong here. This is your home now. I think, yes, you reply, voice steady. The conservatory would be lovely. Very good, ma'am. Just like that, the transition is real, complete. The rest of the morning passes in a gentle haze. Thomas gives you the grand tour of the house, the library filled with dark oak shelves and the scent of old leather, the drawing room with its sweeping view of the gardens, the music room where a pianoforte waits beneath the windows, the morning room, the portrait gallery lined with generations of Fairchild ancestors, all watching from their gilded frames with solemn painted eyes. As you walk, Thomas's hand remains lightly at the small of your back. Every so often, his fingers trail over yours. Every so often, he leans close to point something out and presses a kiss against your temple, like he simply cannot help himself. I hope you won't find country life too dull, he murmurs, as you pause by a window overlooking the frost-silvered lawn. Not if you're here, you answer quietly. He smiles soft and real. Then neither shall I. In the afternoon, a letter arrives. Already, word has spread. Your mother's handwriting is unmistakable. My dearest Jane. The house feels terribly quiet without you. I still glance toward the morning room, expecting to see you with your embroidery or at the pianoforte. Your father sends his love, as does James, though in his usual gruff way. I trust you are well, my darling, and that you and Mr. Fairchild, Thomas, are settling into married life comfortably. We are so very proud of you. You have made an excellent match, not just suitable, but kind, gentle, good. We miss you already, but more than anything, we are happy for you. With all my love, Mother. Tears prick at your eyes before you even finish reading. Thomas notices wrapping his arms around you from behind. His chin rests lightly on your shoulder. Is it? He asks softly. You nod. It's from my mother. They're happy. They miss me, and so they should, he murmurs into your hair. But you're home now. With me. That evening, as the sky blushes with sunset, the two of you walk the grounds together. The air is crisp, your gloved hand tucked into the crook of his arm. Frost glitters on the grass, and your breath forms soft clouds in the fading light. This, Thomas says, pausing to look down at you. This is the beginning of everything. You lean against him, smiling. It feels like it's exactly where I'm meant to be. He presses a kiss to your forehead. It's where I'm meant to be, too. The stars begin to prick through the twilight. The manor behind you glows with lamplight, its windows golden against the deepening blue. Somewhere in the distance, the faint rhythmic clatter of a train drifts through the air. London still moving, still bustling, but far from here. Far from this quiet little world you now share. As the first star appears, you whisper the words you never could have said just weeks ago. Not as Miss Wilson, bound by the constraints of propriety and silence. I love you. Thomas's arms tighten around you. His voice answers rough with emotion, steady as stone. And I love you. More than anything, more than anyone, forever. Together you stand there, two figures, silhouetted against the gathering night. The former Miss Wilson, now Mrs. Fairchild. The former bachelor, now a husband. Partners, equals, lovers, friends. In a world of endless rules, endless proprieties, endless expectations, you have found at last the one place where none of that matters. Together, always, forever.